Hey guys, it's Zilver again, and I'm here with the October full moon update for 2022. Um, During this update, I'm going to talk about a few different subjects that are extremely relevant in the current human evolution. First of all, I'm going to start by saying that this is the most emotionally intense full moon of the year. Um, that specifically will be affecting Cancer, um, astrological symbols Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries, though it will be affecting everyone. And a lot of people will have those somewhere in their chart also. So, right now, it's we're also aligned with Chiron, which means it's the wounded healer. And that means that a lot of insecurities and lacks of fulfillment are going to be coming to the surface. And you may feel some motivation to make changes in your life, or it may just feel like a catatonic depression because you feel helpless in making that change in your life. We're also experiencing the Draconid meteor shower at the same time. So, this is a very intense cosmic moment. And whether or not you believe in those things, when the moon is on top of the sky in a spot that is over giant magnets, scientifically that's going to have an effect on the earth, and the tide of your body is affected by the moon. Um, what I do every month is I notice what issues seem to be coming to light, that people seem to be very focused on, and I try to translate what's going on in society into a transformation that can become a positive evolution if we are to pay attention to the heaviness of the intensity of the cosmic alignment magnetic forces. So, over the last month, I've really noticed that a lot of people are struggling to understand the divine higher self. The divine higher self is going to be the clear minded and open hearted being that can make the correct decision to support themselves and their lifestyle and the beings around them and their community and their human ecosystem, in a way that prolificates life and propagates evolution. Um, as much as we have, a lot of us have evolved past gender, um, it's that being very relevant. Um, it's almost we have evolved back into being gender balanced, many of us, because gender in itself, a lot of the things that people believe about it is actually a program, and a lot of the things that people function under with it were actually programmed. And now that we have the ability to have um, collective access to information, and more people are seeking enlightenment paths, um, what we are finding is that we are going back towards a balanced gender. This is very confusing for a lot of people who spent many ancestral generations inside of the false gender programs that were placed upon us. However, if you go back far enough, you will find that there is a balanced human ecosystem that has gender roles. And the gender roles are the non programmed version of gender roles are taken by people who are gender balanced. So it doesn't matter whether or not you have a penis or a vagina or what you were born as. Um, what gender role have you taken? It's partially a choice. It's partially based on how you feel and the things you want in life. It's also partially what role you are in your family or community structure, despite what your choice is. And it's also going to be, there's going to be a genetic predisposition based on your um, based on your chromosomes, based on your genetics. Um, there's going to be, based on your hormones, there's going to be predispositions towards certain gender roles. And sometimes we can choose to leave those gender roles and enter other ones because they would work better for us. And sometimes it might be very, very difficult to do that. I've noticing some people are fighting fighting too hard against their natural gender role or the gender role that they are in their family or community structure, and that can be destructive too. We do have obligations. Each one of us, those obligations vary to our community and family structures. Abandoning those obligations, those needs to help each other survive, um, is a negative thing. Leaving a family behind or a community structure behind with a gap in a need that will then have a need for a gender role will leave a gap, which will mean someone will inevitably have to take that gender role. They will be forced into that gender role. A parent will be forced to go into the gender role because there is an organic there is an organic balanced relationship, an ancient organic balanced relationship with gender roles that creates an infinity, and that creates a balanced human ecosystem within the family and community structure, and it grows into a societal structure. If a lot of people are rebelling against these things, there are going to be a lot of gaps left behind and people forced into spots. People are going to be left behind neglected. Individuality has become too predominant, and it's leaving a lot of people suffering because for millions of years we've existed in family and community structures that had balanced ecosystems with gender roles. Okay? So I'm going to start by saying that. Now, when I was talking about the divine self, I today am going to make the divine self into going to talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine and some societal problems that I've seen people have, ideas that are not going to work. If we're trying to get back to a tribal structure, and we should be, because human beings are meant to exist in small clanal or tribal groups so that they can live their diverse lifestyles and live and let live with the other groups around them. So, there's nothing advanced or evolved about monoculture, about trying to make everyone believe the same things and agree on everything. Though, of course, there's humanity. We don't want people to be being tortured. We don't want people to be being neglected of food and survival needs or incapable of having their own lifestyle choices to where they could achieve joy and happiness and success. However, outside of those things, directly, because people take it too far saying that this affects survival, that affects survival. A lot of things don't. Emotional immaturity and lack of self-care and self-work is the main problem why people are unhappy. But then there's also the collective environmental. So it's both of those things. So let me start by talking about the divine masculine. There's a lot of men right now that are unhappy with the way women treat them. And a lot of men are talking about, well, there's men that are talking about having the missing divine feminine in their lives, and they're very lonely and they're very sad and they're having trouble functioning without that opposite energetic balance for them to have. And there's a lot of other men that have taken an immature approach because they've been very hurt and they're very blocked up, um, and they are acting out towards the feminine community. And I have advice for any man who feels like he doesn't have the correct feminine balance in his life, whether either which side that you're taking. I would have to say the more mature approach is the man who's trying to better himself and trying to figure out how to create the change around him in his family structure, in his friend group, in his community, and in the world to try to attract and cultivate the divine feminine. And the men that are getting together to relate about how women are treating them bad are actually sort of increasing each other's resentment, and they are separating themselves from the feminine community. Those type of men that are that kind of seeking validation isn't going to help. If you know other guys that are treated bad and you think it's the same way as you, and you just want to complain about it, this is where I'm going to start with this one thing. That in itself is not a divine masculine trait. So, I'm going to start there, and I'm going to say that as much as the men want the change in the conflict between the gender roles to start with the woman, it does not. It starts with the man. And this does not mean the man takes all the responsibility. But spiritually speaking, energetically speaking, the man is the foundation. The man is the one that is sort of the tree trunk. If the man does his own self-work and introspects and spends time working on himself without having to seek outside validation, he will come to conclusions that will allow him to grow in ways that expand his own life and consciousness and energy to be able to become that tree trunk. If he is in a resentful state of existence and he's just relating with other men about how they've been mistreated by women and staying in that mindset and then sort of aggressively demanding that women change, that's a non-masculine trait. It's a non-divine trait. That's not going to work. All of those guys are either going to end up alone, or they are going to have to end up with a female that is oppressed. And if they end up with a female that's oppressed, they will be expecting the woman to not be herself. As much as you men want to believe that women truly are being genuine when they are suppressing their emotions, they are not. As much as you want to believe women are happy when they are suppressing their emotions to serve your happiness, they are not. It will affect their health, it will shorten their lifespan, and it will keep them from being able to flow the feminine goddess energy that they need to flow. So, if that's what you want, you don't really want a real woman. First of all, you won't be a divine masculine, and your woman will not be a divine feminine. Inevitably, it will just be a contractual relationship that serves superficial needs. So, I'm going to give some tips to men And I'm also, just so you know, please watch this whole video, because if you just watch part of it and take it out of context, you won't be getting the whole idea. If you make a comment about just part of the context, it will be irrelevant. I'm going to go into the divine feminine also, and the things that women can do better. Okay? I'm not one of those overly feminist goddess complex women at all. I am a woman that cares very much for the men and the divine masculine, that tries to unlock men's hearts through conversation and getting them to open up about their feelings so that they can heal, because the world needs more real men. And I think that's very important. I don't agree with any group of people. I don't associate myself with any group of people or any hive mind agendas or thought processes whatsoever. I am an individual that wants to bring together other people to become more individual. Because right now, the problem is that people are trying so hard to find outside validation that they're rolling together different experiences that are only slightly the same, and it's irrelevant, because each person is an individual, each situation is individual. And when you become to be a high vibe sentient being who's on a path of evolution, you will let go of trying to generalize people and generalize your experiences. So now that I've said all that, I'm going to move on to my advice that I have for men that actually want to achieve being a divine masculine, to be the foundation tree trunk, to hold up the goddess woman who can then become the top of the tree and flower out in her beauty to provide for the balanced human ecosystem. So, here's the problems that I've been seeing in the communication between men and women, and here are the things that will help men be able to unlock the divine masculine in themselves, and therefore nourish and unlock the divine feminine in the women around them, in their families, in their friends, and especially in their partnerships. Simple acknowledgments are very important. A lot of times, a man will be overwhelmed at a woman's ability to feel deep, intense emotions at any point during the day, during a busy moment. Of course, there is a limitation to some small extent on waiting for the right time and things, but as a woman with estrogen, much estrogen flowing through our bodies, that makes everything a lot more painful for us. We need to get rid of the burden of the emotion so that we can feel good. Otherwise, it will manifest into pain and illness in our body. This is true for men too, but for women, for people with more estrogen, they feel it more. So, more estrogen also makes us more nurturing, more caring, more intuitive, lots of good things from it. So the woman has to be allowed to have more estrogen. And if you don't want that, again, you don't really want a woman. So you don't want a divine feminine. So if a woman is having an emotional time, and her feelings are not acknowledged and ignored, she will become suppressed, blocked, and no longer be able to be a divine feminine. Simple acknowledgments is what I wanted to talk about, because if you're in a situation where you don't have time or energy to be able to, in that moment, fully conclude and transmute the emotions that the female is feeling, then give her simple acknowledgments. And they have to be sincere and deep. Feel how she feels with her. Connect to her and tell her, I understand how you feel. I don't want you to feel that way. And I will put effort into making change in our lives so that you don't feel that way. Give her a hug, hold her for a moment, and you will be surprised how well that works. But it has to be sincere. You have to be willing to go back and finish talking about it, and you can't wait a long time. You can't wait several days or weeks or anything like this. You need to prioritize it, make time for it. But if it needs to wait, you need to show her that you will work on it, talk about it, fix the problem, and make life easier for her. She's not on her own because you're an infinity. So if you tell there's also the men, there's the men that just want to tell women that it's okay, everything's fine the way it is, you're overreacting. Those are not divine traits. Those will suppress the woman and she will not be able to be a divine feminine. Her feelings are important. You need to acknowledge them. It's never right to tell someone that they're overreacting about things if they're someone that you consider to be a respectful, evolved person. That means you see them as a child, and you very much should not be choosing people in your communities to be the divine feminine that you see as children. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. So in a matriarchal sense. So then there are the men that will tell the women that it's okay and that we'll work on it later, but then they don't make time for it. If you do that, she will lose confidence in you. You'll confuse her intuition. She will not be able to access her divine feminine self from that confusion and inability to conclude her feelings. If you make her wait, you have to come through. And it can't be this long amount of time with excuses. It's got to be important. So that's very destructive too, is just pretending like you're going to do things and then not coming through. That's another non-divine masculine trait that I'm seeing being very prevalent. As I've said before, expecting the women to initiate the change, it's not going to happen. You need to be the tree trunk and the foundation. The female flow is very important. Like, the feminine role needs to be able to flow to a conclusion of energy. And that is a cosmic flow, that's an energetic flow. As evolved sentient beings, we need to be able to put off long vibrational waves and come to conclusions with them. This is required for coping processes, for healing processes. Making things very jagged and cutting people off and not allowing them to come to conclusions causes problems in our neurological system, in our brains, in our bodies. It's very important, especially for the women with the more estrogen, and it's important for men too, to be able to come to conclusions. Avoiding coming to conclusions and cutting off and making things very disjointed in that way is unhealthy. You need to make sure that this is not happening. Rather than chopping things off with a sword when it's interfering, we need to find ways to ease things in and out of things. So that's why I gave that advice about the acknowledgement. It's like, if a divine feminine feels safe under the arm of her king, then she'll feel like she can speak up more. And if she feels like she can speak up more, then she feels like she can change her environment more. And then she'll be able to come into a community or a household and create positive change in that feminine energy that may be missing, and often is. And the balanced family structure does not block that ambition, female ambition. As soon as she knows that the man, the masculine, divine masculine role will provide that foundation of her being safe under his wing, she will be able to blossom out. If she knows that she has problems, that he's there to help her and she is not on her own, she will be able to become more feminine. She will be able to become more intuitive, more nurturing, more giving, more loving, more healing, and be able to take on the matriarchal, divine, feminine, alpha female role that she needs to take. And many people are blocked from that. Playing down and ignoring feelings is basically what it all comes down to. So if you want to cultivate a divine relationship, then these are the things that I recommend that you do. On the second hand, there's also, things that women need to do to help men be able to access their divine masculine. And if the man can take the foundational responsibility and be the tree trunk, like I just said, he might encounter some resistance because women this day and age are very much not used to real men. And it may take some time to get through to them and heal their trauma from their life, or even ancestral trauma from many generations of conditioning. So be persistent. And then once you have been able to put them into a calm state and allowed them to heal for a little while, if the feminine side of the infinity is not being receptive to the man, do not become aggressive, even if you are hurt. Remember that the most masculine quality that you have is that you can get through things and you can mostly process things on your own, though you are not completely on your own. You don't let things get you down for too long. If you're a divine masculine, you move on, you keep trying. And that persistence is the most divine masculine trait. Not giving up, not giving in, and the masculine hormones that make you be able to persevere. And it doesn't mean it's infinite, but it needs to be more prevalent than it is in a lot of cases nowadays. So you may need to allow a woman to heal, to access her divine feminine and give her safety before she can access it because of her traumatic life and her inability to do so. And if that happens, and then she is not providing the divine feminine in response, then this is the advice I have for the women, to be able to help the men access the divine masculine better, and for the men to very sweetly explain to her so that she can understand that if they provide the divine feminine now that they are safe, they will continue to receive the divine masculine in that safety, and then both can grow together in the infinity. Women need to allow men to be strong and process on their own. Now, this does not mean men need to disappear and go get drunk or watch TV and play video games for days or any of this kind of stuff. That's not what it means at all. It doesn't mean we need to let men be irresponsible, or that we need to, let them go validate their negative opinions with people. But if there's a divine masculine that actually takes time to internally process and then is capable of doing that, you'll notice, because it will happen within a matter of a few hours. The divine masculine will, in most situations, be able to process things within a few minutes, within a few hours. If they're doing the self work, of introspection, and then they will, once they achieve that moment, you'll notice that things will go through them and transmute and be gone, and they'll be able to get back to the work of being the divine masculine in a short amount of time. In the most traumatic situations, it might be a few days. There might be some relapsing things over a few weeks or something if it was like an extremely traumatic experience, but most things are not going to take that long if you just leave him to be the tree trunk and sit with his roots in the ground and ground, and just let it process, let that process through him down into the earth again. Oftentimes as women, we will a non-divine feminine trait would be to try to control the man into not processing that so that we don't have to feel bad for them feeling bad. But we need to let them feel what they need to feel. They need that. It's very important as being the tree trunk into the ground with the roots. We're the flowers on the top of the tree, so we just want to let everything go out into the air, and then whatever excess goes down into them that they have to deal with. And we have to realize when we're taking the feminine role, the masculine role is he's going to need time to process. And like I said, it won't be an immature escapism kind of process for the most part. Though of course there's a little bit of fun and entertainment in life always, but regularly leaving someone behind to suffer and then for fun and entertainment isn't what it's about. It's not about it's not so much about doing things to get their mind off of it, though that can be part of it. It's about just not trying to make them feel better instantly, not trying to overly coddle them into feeling better. Though sometimes a man might need to be in the feminine role and the woman might need to take the masculine role in order to help the man feel better. For the most part, it's women will either not care about the man's emotions and expect him not to take the time to process, or they'll try too hard to make him feel better instantly, or just make him just feel happy and love and things like that when he needs to be processing something else. Just let him process it. When you see that he's unhappy, he's frustrated, he's angry, just allow him to process it. It doesn't take a long time. And I understand that a lot of non-divine men have taken advantage of this, and they want to be allowed to sit and process and sort of ignore their responsibilities and obligations. But if we're going to get the balance back that we need to get, we both need to be providing the things that I'm talking about in this video in an infinity balance. We both need to be doing it. Like I said, it does start with the man being the tree trunk. It rarely can start with the woman that's already divine, helping the man access his divine. But inevitably, the balance will never come until the tree trunk and the foundation is there first of safety. So, women, please let your men process. They don't expect them to be happy all the time, and don't expect them to instantly feel better. Don't expect them to want to distract themselves from it, because wanting to distract themselves from it would not be a good thing. Let them feel it. Let them process it, because they're helping you in doing that. And as long as he is not getting mad at you or towards you, and he doesn't involve you in the upsetness that he has in any way or blame you, then he is being a divine masculine. So make sure you do that. And the other thing that women need to really focus on too is the men need a reciprocation of safety. They need nurturing and love. They need physical affection. They need to be able to rest after they've worked hard. And we need to be able to allow them to go into that vulnerable state and take care of them when they are, after they have worked very hard for our happiness. So that's the other thing. If a man has to go a long time without physical affection and nurturing and feeling the goddess energy that he needs to feel, he will not be able to continue to provide the divine masculine, and he will break down back into an immature little boy. And then the whole process will have to start over again. So you want to be consistent and reliable with each other in all of these manners to keep the infinity flowing without any interruption, because like I said, the long wavelengths of energy will be what cause us to evolve into cosmic beings and heal, because we are meant to have really long waves of energy slowly gradienting from one into the other. So love your men. That's the main thing. Love them, touch them, kiss them, hold them, cuddle them, make them dinner, make them feel special, make them feel good about themselves, lift them up. This is what we are here for, as the top of the tree. We lift them up and show them the beauty at the top of the tree, that we have grown from the nutrients that they have given us through filtering the energy through the trunk into the roots. We want to make sure that we are very much sharing that beauty and safety and love with them when they are broken down from being our men and working so hard to create a good environment for us to thrive in. It's really, really important that we give them the love that they deserve. That we stop, that at some point things become good enough and we are able to really share that deep, heartfelt energy with them. And treat them like little boys sometimes, so that they can feel like life is about fun and joy and love and things when things become more lighthearted. I realize that men can use lightheartedness overly, and we need to point out when they're doing that. But we can't completely cut out the lightheartedness that the men have, and we need to let them bring that to us too, and we need to bring it to them too. It's very important. Everything is such a delicate balance with all this stuff. And both parties have to be willing to communicate and be able to energetically feel when something's getting to be too much and not enough. And it's not about an argument. It's not about a power control. Because as long as if you always have high vibe love energy flowing between each other, it will flow even when one of you is upset, even when one of you is angry. There'll be a connection at the heart there that never goes away. And that's when the lightheartedness becomes a very good experience to have for you to give one another. So allow, just as much as the man needs to allow the woman to be a little girl and become vulnerable and take care of her until she feels better, we need to let them be little boys too. And because the divine child is just as important as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So do allow, men really need to, men have a lot, people in the divine masculine role have a lot of energy output. So when they're putting a lot of energy out, they're really trying to be the king that manifests the reality, keeps everything good. There's a lot of energy output. So men need to really be able to recharge and regenerate. You need to make sure that they're getting enough sleep. You need to make sure that they're getting enough food. This is true very much also for the women. But just remember that the men need that. That we need to make sure that they get to recharge and regenerate before the next mission or task that they have to take on. And also make sure that they're not overly doing that and taking advantage of it. This is with everything. It's such a delicate balance, but allowing the men, also women, I am noticing, are not allowing their men to regenerate and recharge enough, and then the men are getting broken down. So this is something that I think is important. I'm also seeing men do it to women, expecting women to work as hard as them. They can't. They won't be feminine. You're not feminine if you don't take time to rest and regenerate. Literally, our breasts grow when we are in a peaceful and relaxed state. We produce more estrogen, and it puts our menstrual cycle in balance. It's very important for the woman to rest and regenerate too. But it starts with the man, like I said. So if the man's letting the woman have the rest and regeneration, please, women, give that back to him. He needs it. And be patient. And when things are okay, or things are not that bad, just let him rest and regenerate before putting the next thing on him. And like I said, if he's a divine masculine, it won't take that long. It won't be a very long process for him to regenerate. It won't be a very long process for him to process or any of it. It will be a short process if he's a divine masculine. He won't take advantage of it because he will want to get back to work to being the divine masculine just as much as you will want to get back to work to being the nurturing divine feminine in your community. So allow each other to rest and regenerate. And that was especially towards women that I'm noticing are overworking their men, though men are a lot of men are starting to expect women to overwork too. Overworking in general is just something that we need to not do. There's no point. You're not living if you're just overworking yourself. You need to be spending half of your time resting, regenerating, in love, in self-care. Like you cannot be spending more than half of your time doing arduous work, no matter who you are. So, gender roles only work. Sorry, I have a notebook here. Gender roles only work for people that are in harmony. And many people are not in this harmonious state of just automatic give and take. Everybody make up for what the other person can't do. And all the things that I've just told you can make it so that you can actually have that harmony and exist within a balanced ecosystem, balanced tribal like ecosystem of human beings. We need to find our way back to this. People are getting very confused. People are getting very ill. People are not able to be happy in the overly individualistic current society that we live in, where everybody's just on their own and everybody just has to work themselves to death. We need to start being more unified and communal in the true manner, which is not monoculture. Everybody is the same. It's accepting our diversities. Okay? Here's my cat. It's accepting our diversities in gender roles is what I'm talking about today, but it's in many different ways. So I have other videos about all the other types of diversity. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, or probably talk a lot about the divine feminine and some of the problems that I've been seeing with that. I just went over some of the stuff that I think women can do better for men. But I want to go into now how women can treat each other better. Because one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing in society right now is women are getting very, very aggressively blocked up, emotionally tense, unhappy. And that's because the sisterhood of women is not being adhered to. There's a royal code of respect, a tribal or royal code of respect that women have had with each other because women are more psychic. Women tend to notice subtle energies more. People in the divine feminine role and the feminine roles. It's important that we acknowledge that. And what I'm noticing is that women are treating each other. Women are not treating each other well often. They're disregarding each other's comfort. They're disregarding each other's relationships. They're disregarding each other's energy. They're disregarding each other's consciousness. And this disregard has made it so that there is no matriarchal sisterhood in our communities. And many of us more sensitive women that are attempting to be the divine feminine in our communities are getting pushed away from having a sisterhood and just being pushed away from having feminine relationships in general. As I said at the beginning of the video, you're not getting anywhere until you're gender balanced to begin with, and then you take on a gender role. So I'm going to call them gamey women. Women that play games. They play energetic games. They play psychological games. These are immature women, and it's gotten to be in style. to be an immature woman. It's gotten to be acceptable to be very much not divine feminine. Um, Women, because they feel like that they were oppressed through history, just like a lot of the cultures that have been oppressed through history, they feel like they need to act out to make the balance, but that's not true. You do need to be free, and you do need to have the ability to access your divine feminine or masculine, like I was talking about, or be able to conduct your life without having to worry about what race you are and all these things. That's true. But if you take that freedom and you use it to become a bigot and oppress others because they oppressed you in the past, or mistreat people and let them be unhappy because you're unhappy, that this is not the way to create the balance. So um, right now, there are a lot of gamey, bratty women that are acting out, and they are just chasing every desire that they have with disregard for everyone around them in their community in a very unbalanced way. Um, be quiet. These women are doing things like running men ragged in order to get their love. Um, Men are often feeling like they have to work too hard to get the woman, get the love from the woman, and then the men are working really hard and they're not getting the rest and regeneration, and they're not getting the nurturing love. And they're just sort of like dangling it in front of them and having a whole bunch of different guys. This is not okay. This is psychologically damaging. And it's hurting a lot of men, and it's hurting a lot of women too, because I'm going to explain to you the simplicity of the code of loyalty, tribal and royal code of loyalty between women that existed since ancient times. It's always been sort of subconscious and unwritten, and I'm going to put it on paper, well, in a video right now. And that's that women need to acknowledge their intuition for subtle energy around. They need to make sure they're opening themselves up to the subtle energies around them, because if you are a woman and you walk into a room, it will change. If anybody walks into a room, it will change the energy. But let's say if you are a beautiful, vibrant woman, and you walk into a room, it drastically changes the energy. And when that happens, for instance, wanting all the guys to look at you as all the women look away and feel bad, this is not a positive thing. Wanting to get attention from a guy who's with a woman and trying to take the energy away from them and not acknowledging the woman. You don't need to be making other women feel bad to feel good. You don't really have confidence if you need to do that. You don't need to be acting out like a brat, playing these games. If you're really confident in yourself as a divine feminine, these things will not be necessary for you. If you walk into a room and you make a woman uncomfortable, you'll go out of your way to make her feel comfortable again if you are a divine feminine. If you see a man looking at you, you will not acknowledge him. You will acknowledge the woman he's with, whether it's his mother, his cousin, his sister, or his girlfriend, or his friend. And you may not even know. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is that women acknowledge the sisterhood. We are all sisters. And all of the women that are willing to acknowledge our subtle energy will become our sister. Many women are not used to other women even providing that energy. So they might be a little bit resistant. But provide it anyway. Walk into a room, sit and talk to the other women in the room. Connect to the other women. Smile at them. Make them feel like they are beautiful too. And you will be surprised when that sisterhood comes together. This is the way in which the woman comes first. I talked about the tree trunk, about the man coming first. But now there is this way also that the divine feminine must provide first. We need to stop expecting the men to uphold this code of balance for us. This code of loyalty and the sisterhood is not for the men to initiate. Though the men will need to understand it, they cannot be the ones that uphold it and initiate it alone. They'll have trouble understanding it. Men's instinct is to do things like look at a beautiful woman. We need to help them understand why and when that's disrespectful with our loving high vibe energy. We need to create a sisterhood so that we have a mutual respect amongst women, so that we know women won't do things that will violate our relationships with the men, which can be things other than partnerships. Allowing someone into your community structure at all can create turmoil. We need to be able to approve of each other as women without being forced to approve of each other as women. We need to genuinely get to know each other slowly. All of the disregard in our modern society for these things is creating so much unhappiness, mental illness, so much inability to function. We need to fix it. So it starts with the women in this way that I'm talking about now. When you're walking around, make sure that you're acknowledging the women around you in a positive manner. Remember that the women are beautiful. Remember that you're beautiful. Remember that remember that you need to have true confidence that doesn't depend on stealing energy from people, because you don't really get energy from people in that way anyway. It's just making people feel bad, and it's unnecessary. You could get more energy by making everyone feel good and everyone feel comfortable, and bring together the sisterhood. And then bringing together the sisterhood will also bring together the brotherhood, because when the women are at ease, the men will feel at ease too, and then they won't feel like they have to protect their women from each other, and then they'll be able to relax into a better state of brotherhood with each other as well. So it's really important. Ignoring women's instincts and intuitions around you, just ignoring it and being like, oh, I'm just gonna be me, I don't care what she thinks, I don't, if her boyfriend's looking at me, and I don't need to care that it's bothering her. This is just, it's inconsiderate. We need to be nurturing each other into, as women also, we need to be nurturing each other into being able to access our divine feminine. It's going to take both the men and the women to do this. The other thing I was going to say too is, if you are a woman who's going to actually take the sisterhood loyalty responsibility that you need to take in your community, you need to do it sincerely. You can't be superficial about it. You can't decide that you want to make friends with that girl only because you think the guy she's with is cute. You can't force it, you can't force your way into their lives and be a superficial person in order to get sex or attention or whatever it is, so that you can later, privately go behind their back and do something. Women do this too. They'll insincerely make friends with you so that they can do things that you wouldn't have approved of if they didn't approve of you. And then they will take it too far and do things you wouldn't approve of. And then the man will, oh, okay, I can get away with this stuff with her, and she doesn't know, but it's okay because she approves of her. And then it all becomes defunct again. So you need to sincerely care about that other woman in a way that you wouldn't do things that violate her loyalty, that don't betray her. Things need to be out in the open. Things need to be honest. Things need to be forthcoming. And then we will forge positive relationships with the other women. And that's what we need to do. It needs to be sincere. That's also a very important thing. And this will create safety for the men, not just in the way of them relaxing into the brotherhood and not worrying about the women being each other's throats and all that stuff I was talking about, but also men need to feel safe in their relationship. It's very primitive energy and very primitive that people right now feel like they very much have to fight to keep their partner, because people will just leave, not work things out, cheat, be unloyal, get online and find somebody else, move on. It's not that important to stay in it, you know? And everybody thinks this is evolved. It's not. It's de-evolved. It's very primitive. Very primitive. Like, not even like tribal isn't primitive. Tribal is like, we really care about each other. And you want to go back to like animalistic with no sentience at this point. Um, Men need to feel safe in their relationships too. It's very important that they know you're not going to run off with another guy, or another guy can't just steal you away because he can provide something else. Keeping a whole bunch of different guys on the plate, um, it's it's making men feel very unsafe, and they can't access their divine masculine because they feel like they're constantly chasing, just trying to get that divine feminine, trying to get that love. So in treating the other women better and having respect for the masculine relationships, we need to make sure that we're making the men feel safe, okay? And if the men feel safe, they'll be able to relax into their divine masculine state more easily. So if everybody's just focused on the individualistic, desire based, societal reality that we're in right now, there isn't a balanced ecosystem, and people aren't happy, and we can't function. And that's a big reason why our whole world is falling apart. So all these things that I just talk about, if we contemplate those, and try to be better divine masculine or feminine, and sometimes we might, like I said, switch roles or need to switch roles, even for a short time or for a long time. But if we're just aware, if we take the time to think about, introspect, and meditate on these things, um, we can make things more balanced and make the energy flow calmer and longer trains of energy, so that we can get back to the actual real human experience, before it was disrupted by all of this, I hate to say it, but narcissistic thinking. So, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is, and you might not find this very related, but it is. And the reason why I'm going to say so is because, as I was talking about at the beginning of the video, there's groups of men protesting about women and groups of women protesting about men, and this whole protesting thing has gone too far. It's not creating enough change. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, it's gone overboard. Um, Everybody's sort of throwing a socio-political tantrum every time they feel that they have experienced a personal injustice. And at this point, instead of going and talking to the person in your life that you feel is causing the injustice and working it out, people would rather make a meme, make a public post, or join a protest. And then we have these whole groups of hurt people against these whole groups of hurt people, and they are not connecting to each other and actually fixing the problem, because you can't just have an emotional tantrum, and you can't just have an outburst in that way, in your own, behind a wall, in your own box, making your post. This is not a personal connection. We need to be looking at each other in the eyes. We need to actually be sitting down and communicating like adults. We need to be taking the time to do the self-work and self-care, that we come to the common peace in ourselves, even if that problem is persisting, so that we can address that problem with the other party, with the other person, and actually create the change. So, at some point in the future, I was thinking about bringing together some of the very hurt and broken men and women, and that feel these ways about each other, and just having them look in each other's eyes, shake each other's hands, and talk about things in a calm manner after they've cleared themselves of that negative emotional energy. We need to be able to clear that energy no matter what. Like, even if it reoccurs and it comes back, we need to be able to be taking the self work and self care to clear ourselves and actually communicate with one another instead of acting out in the socio-political manner that's actually creating more division between us. And it's making it so that people think it's okay to not do the self work and self care to raise the vibe. And then the people are, just hiding behind a wall of social media or protesting. And if you're not doing the self work and the self care to get to a place of peace, then you shouldn't be communicating about whatever's going on. I know we all might have small outbursts at times, but the outbursts have turned into giant socio-political tantrums that have turned into big protests of people that aren't taking the self-work and doing the self-care to bring the peace. And you have to be able to be mature enough to get the peace within yourself before you can think you can be a diplomat to bring an issue to light that you want to talk about. And you need to be the kind of person that's mature enough already to be diplomatic enough to talk to the people in your direct lives, in your direct communities, that you feel that these injustices are happening. And you have to be able to have compassion from them and where they're coming from too equally. You can't, if you just are taking aggressive energy, it's not going to work. If it's impersonal, it's not going to work. What we really need is more personal connections between people in general. So, just it's immature to just go around and try to validate and relate to people, and then get big groups together. It's like big groups of monkey flinging poo. It's not doing any good. So let's try to be actually mature people in this way. um it might seem like hypocrisy that I'm saying this because I'm making a video, but I'm trying to get people to actually have more proactive personal and private conversations about things in their lives, because everything isn't a socio-political issue. A socio-political issue would be something that only a group of people could change, like a corporation or the government or something along those lines. And now everybody's personal issues have become socio-political. That doesn't make sense. Personal issues are dealt with personally. They're dealt with inside of our personal communities, directly, one-on-one, looking at each other in the eyes. So we need to really start doing that instead of copping out to the socio-political tantrums and spending the time processing. And despite all that also, and then realizing that the gender roles are not something that we can escape, and that many of us are in one, and we chose one, or that we are obligated to have one. We need to take the responsibility of that and try to access the higher self, and the divine selves, so that we can provide that divine high vibe sentient energy that makes us different from primitive beings. And being tribal is far more sentient than being modern, because we can make small groups of people that can respect each other's diversities. And even if we cannot agree with everything that everybody else is doing, we can at least respect it and still have a positive energy to share with the other energetic beings around us, because our energy inevitably affects each other. So let's take these responsibilities here on this most emotional Aries full moon. I'm a Libra. Well, I'm a Libra cusp. So I felt like, and I said Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries are very affected by this, or if you have it in your chart at all. And like I said, I'm sure everybody else is feeling it. I felt these issues and was motivated to talk about them. I implore you to do the same and make the change in your life that you need to change, and face the sadness and the lack of fulfillment, and insecurities that you're having, and be able to process them using the intense moon energy that transmutes the sun energy and reflects it into us as it is standing on top of the Aries constellation, with Aries being literally the most adamant of all the signs of anything. So it's time for us to start actually making these changes. And I hope you have a good full moon. You may cry, you may feel lost, but just let it process, let it go through you. And hopefully, through this process, you'll be able to reach for the divine masculine or feminine, divine in yourself, and find the equal or opposite to yourself if you're a soulmate, twin flame, infinity kind of person, romantic that's searching for that relationship. I hope you will be able to reach for it. I hope you'll be able to provide the balance for each other and create that infinity to create a better balanced human ecosystem here on this full moon in October of 2022.